Jacques Nienaber says don't drive a wedge between him and Rassie. No, he didn't. He didn't contact us. But someone sent me a message to say, what are you trying to do? Cause trouble between Rassie and Jacques by saying Jacques must come back.
No.
I said, what?
Of course, that's what we're doing.
Yes. Sorry, Razor, what else do you want us to say? I mean, you were bullish, you were emphatic, and you were 100% on point why we need Jacques Nienaber back in the box setup before the 2027 World Cup. It's the talking point. We put it as the lead on Keo.co.za, on the socials. But I was surprised at how many people thought there was something sinister about it.
I don't understand how saying that Jacques and Rassie must be reunited can be seen as a bad thing. In what way is it seen as a bad thing? I'm just naive in that way. Like, what is the bad connotation there?
It's like asking Robin to hop in the in the sidecar with Batman.
Exactly.
Why do you want him there? Because it's not the same. Batman's not the same without Robin, and Robin's not the same without Batman.
Yeah, look, I think they make a great combination, and where the one is weak, the other is strong, and vice versa. So I just think, Jacques proven his value as a defense coach over and over and over. He's obviously been intrinsic to the box success, and I think he's a good sort of grounding point for Rassie, and would certainly keep this team pointed in the right direction. So I think he adds massive value. I mean, Rassie's the guy with the planning and the forward thinking and the charisma when needed. Jacques more of the sort of backroom and on the field training drill intensity kind of guy.
So you stand by your comment.
I stand by it, man.
Jacques Nienaber should be back in the Springbok fold.
Yes, I love that silent H that you put in there.
That World Cup winning coach, great successful coach. People forget, and this guy seems so divorced and devoid of ego, and that's kind of what I wrote post our show.
Yeah.
Is he went from winning a World Cup in 2023 to being a part of a Leinster coaching setup where he was not the top dog, and he was comfortable in doing that. In the first 6 months he was there, he got a lot of kind of whiplash effect from the likes of Brian O'Driscoll, who said this guy's going to destroy Leinster, and all he did was ensure that Leinster won their first title.
Correct.
In basically 4 seasons when they demolished the Bulls 32-7 at the Aviva Stadium. Jake White's last game in charge, if anyone needed reminding. But Jacques Nienaber, I mean, he's been brilliant with Rassie wherever he's been.
Yeah.
They've had success at the Cheetahs, at the Stormers. And people forget when they inherited the Stormers, which was a bit of a rabble, they had that one incredible season where they beat all 5 New Zealand teams. No South African team has ever beaten all 5 in one season.
Hammered the Crusaders.
Yeah, and they did it where this was a Stormers team that had, I think, lost 75-14 at Loftus against the Bulls.
Yes.
And that had John de Villiers, Skalkberger, that big names in it.
Yeah.
They've got folded at Loftus. And Jacques and Rassie came in and really brought discipline, they brought structure, and they brought defensive mongrel to it. And their thing was, teams aren't going to score easily against us. They went to Munster. Munster were a mess. They fixed them. They won the league stage of Pro 12. Then they got to the final. They got knocked over. They made it to the semi-finals of the Investing Champions Cup. I think Saracens, who were still really at the top of their game, beat them. I think Saracens went on to win it that year. Then came back to South Africa. Again, inherited something that wasn't very good. 7 from 14 in their first year in charge. People forget that. Lost to Wales in the opening game in DC. Lost in Cardiff. And then kind of went on this run. Won the World Cup in 90, won it in 23, British and Irish Lions Series, Rugby Championship now. They are the perfect combination. We know that Jacques wants to go back to Ireland. Also, I think he has to be there for 4 or 5 years in terms of his kids and his wife for Irish passports to have an option, the best of both worlds. But we've said all along that his contract does expire just before the World Cup in 2027, and it would be crazy not to bring him back into the fold.
Absolutely.
He's one of the best.
I love that little monologue, mate. That was special. I don't know how you can total recall all those facts, but well done. That's incredible.
Thanks, because I saw it.
Oh, that's the thing I saw that I don't remember. That's incredible. Mate, couldn't agree with you more. And I wouldn't be 1% surprised if Jacques does come back. I mean, for me, it's the logical thing. We've been speaking about it for a year. And for me, it's obvious that Jacques has to come back. I can't see how Rassie has serious 2027 plans that don't include Jacques. So I think it's a matter of time. When rather than if.
Okay, so I don't, I never rewatch any of our shows because I mean, being in it at times, as you would say, is bad enough or good enough. But I do scroll through the comments and, mate, the people loved you in the last show,
Oh, really, mate?
and but they loved the fact that you kind of went into the dark arts of analysis
Oh,
and what you thought about the box, the bigger picture. Do that for me with Jacques Nienaber. Explain, I mean, you have a level coaching 3, you're a stats man, your data analysis. I mean, people don't know how many hours you spend dissecting games. But to the layperson, explain, who loves rugby, what makes Jacques Nienaber so special and where his value lies.
so I think what Jacques has got right in his career is that he's worked with Rassie Erasmus from day one. And what I mean by that is not that Rassie has invented Jacques. Like, Jacques is a great defense coach. But if you're a great defense coach in the wrong environment, under a head coach who doesn't understand or value some of the principles of winning rugby, you kind of get washed out by probably the attack coach and other guys in the management team. So Jacques has always been in a position where he's the 2IC to the head coach, who is Rassie Erasmus. And Rassie Erasmus doesn't have to think for a second when you ask him, why do you coach rugby? His answer is winning. And that's straight up. So Jacques been in a good space in his career underneath a head coach like that. That's given him some ammo to implement the stuff that he wants to do. And it's allowed him to go full throttle in doing that without having to manage his management team colleagues. On top of that, he is obviously a fantastic defense coach, a great innovator in that space. And he's got a personality that fits this defense coach persona, where he's going to bring intensity. He holds the guys to very high standards. He gives them all the details they need to execute at 1,000 miles an hour. And he expects that of them. And he, like in 2012 in Cape Town, when they built the Great Wall of Newlands, that team just came out to make 200 tackles a game without apologizing. And they were very, very difficult to score against. And though the fans at the time had kind of gotten fat on Rassie's counter-attacking game and high-scoring game, and here Aplon just dicing people to pieces for big scoring wins. The reality is that Stormers team in 2012, I think they topped the log. They hosted a quarterfinal. The Sharks came back from the other side of the world, I think it was, and beat them at Newlands. So an unfortunate ending to that campaign, but the numbers were there in terms of the quality of their plan, and Jacques was the backbone of that. So I think that's the key value that Jacques brings, is he understands the big picture, he understands the small picture, he knows how to give the details to the players to execute, and he's relentless in terms of the standards that he sets, and sort of how he gets the guys motivated to deliver. So fantastic.
And what do you think he's done different at Leinster, having followed them from the start of the URC? If you had to, again, make a case for him and illustrate to the South African public, out of sight is out of mind in this country.
Yeah.
And say to them, there was one fundamental difference, or there was something about the Leinster mindset that changed, and it had a Jacques Nienaber fingerprint all over it. What would it be?
I think I'm guessing, but I think he would say that's probably been his hardest coaching assignment, precisely for the reason I said it in motivating how good he is because he didn't have Rassie there. And there's definitely at Leinster a very attack-minded philosophy. It's very much about slick attacking plays, keeping possession, breaking down defenses through attack. I mean, they obviously have a great kicking game as well, but that's definitely been their mindset. And Jacques is very much a defense-first kind of guy, obviously. So I think he would have had to learn a bit of diplomacy in that environment, learn how to manage some of those people in that environment. I think it would have been a great growth opportunity for him. And you can see the fruits of what Jacques does. And that's the thing with Jacques, is Jacques got balls. Like, he does some big things. Like, he's gone into Leinster there and he hasn't kind of hedged his bets. He said, listen, we're going to roll the dice on defense. We're going to absolutely full throttle it up with line speed to catch Oaks deep and create chaos. And they got cut a few times doing it. And there was obviously, as you mentioned with Brian O'Driscoll, some negative feedback in the media and from pundits. But they stuck with it. They paid their school fees. They learned some lessons, and they become obviously even more ferocious now in defense.
Would you say Jacques is the most underappreciated Springbok coach that we've had in the professional era, given the massive shadow that Rassie casts over this box setup?
Yeah.
With Rassie having been the director of rugby, being in charge of strategy in the build-up between 2020 and 23, do you feel Jacques has been given his dues as the guy who coached South Africa to the 2023 World Cup? Yay or nay?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to answer that question because I don't really know how much influence Rassie had during the time, even though on paper he was a director of rugby and Jacques was the head coach. I think there was a little bit of sort of blurring of lines in that. So, look, Jacques is a fantastic coach. I'm not sure, like I say, he's grown diplomatically at Leinster. I'm not sure he's the guy necessarily who's the best to manage upwards, but that's based on my knowledge of him from many years ago. So maybe he's completely changed. I just think Rassie's speciality is being 2 steps ahead of the game upstairs and on the field.
Well, if you take that 2023 World Cup playoffs, and there's that famous picture of all the coaches looking and Rassie like laying down the law in one of the playoff games. I think it was England, and including Jacques looking up, and it's like people that you can see who's in charge.
Yeah.
Are Rassie and Jacques not the closest we've seen to pro football, where the manager is the gaffer, he's the boss, GAFFER, and the coach it's great coaches that are there. And they are the ones that are on the field operationally doing everything.
Yeah, I would agree with
that. We think of a manager as being someone who reads out the team list in South Africa and wins South African rugby. But the manager is the strategic head honcho who takes charge of all those things, engages with the players, ultimately determines selection with the input of his coaches. But then the hands-on coach that is driving everything is the guy on the field, and that would be Jacques Nienaber.
Yeah, I think that'd be pretty close. I remember at the Stormers, Rassie used to, throw off his flip-flops and go on the field and contest the lineouts with the under-21. So I think there are aspects of the game that Rassie is probably much more involved in than others. But I think operationally, Jacques plays a big part. And I think probably the players talk to Jacques more in the day-to-day operation of the Bok team at the time they were coaches together than probably Rassie.
Well, we know that they don't speak to Rassie much in terms of one-on-one. Rassie, on his own podcast,
Correct,
in his own interviews, said that he thinks he's had 3 one-on-ones in 8 years with the players, and it's with Sia, Eben, I think it may have been one other, that he had coached at the Stormers many years ago. He says he feels that blurs the lines. He puts out the Google sheet, you're either in, you're out, and he kind of explains it in front of the whole team. Some don't like that. Some say that's great, it's brutal, it's the way it is. Some say he doesn't have the empathy, but he's got 2 World Cup wins to say maybe his formula does work. So you can't argue with the guy who's won 2 World Cups, who's won a rugby championship, won a British and Irish Lions series in the way that they did, went to Australia, won 2 on the bounce, beat New Zealand 2 on the bounce.
It's interesting you say that, though, because there's one thing Rassie has never done, and that's coach a team that's won 2 World Cups. In that respect, he's kind of learning on the job. And the reason I say that is I think guys that have won 2 World Cups feel like they've achieved something, which they have. But I just wonder about the sort of, entitlement's probably the wrong word, but I'm not sure you can be as sort of brutally honest / ruthless with guys who you've taken to 2 World Cups and won both. You understand what I'm saying? Like, you bring in guys that have done nothing in their career and they want to be Springboks and play 100 tests. You can tell them, listen, when I click my fingers, you do this, and they'll do it.
Yeah, you can only do the Alp Screamo
exactly
speech once.
Exactly.
To a team.
Exactly.
And I think he did that at the 2023 World Cup.
Yeah.
When they lost to Ireland. I think Peter Steff then did it to his teammates at halftime against England. As julle bonus en julle wat sê.
Yeah.
As julle bonus. Sê net vir ons. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
So I don't think screaming, shouting, berate is going to help when you're looking at these veterans in their 30s, won 2 World Cups. I think there's a different approach that's needed, and that will be his biggest challenge over the next 2 seasons. Who stays, who goes, how does it call, when does it call? We're going to chat about that a little bit later in the show. But talking about the Boks arriving in New Zealand, they arrived in Auckland at midnight. A lot of South African Kiwis today, South Africans dressed in Bok green and gold to welcome them.
Beautiful.
It's going to be a fantastic fortnight. We're going to talk about rugby so much. It's like having back-to-back World Cup finals in Auckland and in Wellington. Obviously, the big one. 50 test matches unbeaten since 1994 when France beat them. Last play of the game. The Boks actually drew the next test there, 18-all. Outscored them 2 tries to 0. Shane Howarth, 6 penalties. New Zealand got out of jail. And there was a 15-all draw against the Lions 2017. Outside of that, it's been 48 wins for the All Blacks. The legacy of this team is there. It's defined in history, the Bok team. But to go there and be the side that wins for the first time, the Bok side for the first time since 1937, and then also is the first team to end the All Blacks unbeaten run. That, I think, is what this whole build-up to the season has been for Rassie and the Boks. And it's going to take power, it's going to take precision, which brings me to Steko.
Here we go, mate.
Our Stecco power plays. If you'd like to remind people who your Stecco power play was.
My Stecco power play
This was from
the Cape Town test.
no, not from the Cape Town test. This was from the one in Johannesburg. It's going to announce some winners now.
Okay. Oh, sorry. From the winners. Who did I pick in Joburg?
You see, you can't remember. You picked Andre Esra as an.
Oh, yes, he's an all test try.
Yes, and you know what's a picked it? Gemini Abrahams or Gemini Abrams. It's spelled
Kamea Abrahams.
Kamea, that's it.
Kamea Abrahams.
Kamea Abrams. She's picked Andre the Giant, and she felt that was her Stecco moment. And then Nakib Imran picked the most popular try, Sia Khaleesi's try.
Yeah.
Captain Courageous's try. And they won they won one each, Stecco PS600 portable power stations valued at 7,999 Rand each. And we'll be giving away another 2 when we look at, announce the winners from the Cape Town test.
Powerful.
So you just got to follow our socials, WhatsApp channels, SA Rugby Keo Zels, and also the SA Rugby Facebook channel, all our socials on X. And if you enter, you can be a winner because we are all just about winning.
Yep.
And who won? Bulls, Stormers, or both with the launch of their jersey?
Oh, mate, I like them both. I think they've got great innovations there. It always takes a bit of time to get used to a change, but I think the guys hit it out of the park with both of those designs. And nice to go into a season with it's a new season and it's new kits, and significantly different, not just a little tweak. I thought they both looked lovely. What did you think?
Oh, well, first tell me, why do you think they look lovely?
Well, I like the Bulls, like the thick blue band on the chest there. It's just got a bit of an accent to it now, right? It's not just a plain powder blue jersey, but they haven't gone as far as making it camouflage pink. So I like the look of it. Some people have said it looks a bit New South Wales Waratahs, maybe, but there's no Waratahs in the URC, so we'll be okay.
But the Waratahs, they played in a similar blue for 100 years.
Correct.
As did
the powder blue. Yeah.
Powder blue. So I like that it's gone back to its kind of like traditional roots. I like their home and away strip. It's not offensive at all. They're not playing in camo. They're not playing, like you say, in Luma pink or Luma blue. They're not playing in all black, Springbok green, because that's kind of what's going to sell them on the public. To me, they look like the Bulls. There's an identity. Which brings me to the Stormers. They look like the team that's played out of Western Province for 100 years in the home strip. The blue and white hoops, the stripes, they reunited. I think it's a fantastic, the black shorts, the black socks with the color fold over.
I love the stripes, mate. The red stripes. I think that's a nice little accent.
Yeah, and just, Puma, obviously you align with the Bulls. And Adidas is synonymous with the Stormers, with Western Province.
Yep.
It's synonymous with sport in this town. You look at a Man United supporter, a Liverpool supporter, that's the only 2 soccer supporters you're going to find in Cape Town, and they wear Adidas. You look at the Stormers, they now wear Adidas again after 8 years. So I think the tie is brilliant. I couldn't get to the Bulls launch because no one flew me up, but I did manage to drive to the DHL stadium for the Stormers launch.
Nice.
It was great. They took the media in. You were missed, by the way. Where's Zels? Where's Gills? Where's Zels? I just wanted your autograph. They wanted pictures with you. They love you, man. And we went into the home change room and where Salman Murat and Yom Farie explained what the jersey means to them. And they were obviously in their full regalia. And then we went into the away change room and they explained why they're going to be playing in that away strip. And it's obvious why they've gone the route for the home one. But what I love is the explanation behind the away strip. The Lumo green, it's representative of the colorfulness of Boerkaap. I stayed there, Gil and I stayed there for 5 years in the studios in Rose Street. I have a great affection for the place. It's on every postcard. When you see Cape Town, you see the mountain, you see boulders, you see the waterfront, and you see Boerkaap. And it is a recognition also of non-racial rugby, pre-unity. There's a meaning to it for me. It's not Luma green. You just walk down and their practice jersey is going to be that kind of bright pink as well. It's saying to the people of Cape Town, the people of Western Province, we actually know who you are, we play for you, but we haven't forsaken tradition. And that tradition of the blue and white hoops was also in non-racial rugby. When there was segregation on both sides, they played in blue and white. So it's an identity. And I said to a lot of the guys, and no disrespect to Adidas when they were with them previously or whoever else came after them, at one stage, you didn't know what color the Stormers were going to play in. And how do you get a sense of identity as a fan that that's your team? It's like, imagine the Boks running out in different colored jerseys ever. Red one week, blue, black the next week. There has to be a identity. And I think both the Bulls And the Stormers have nailed it 100%.
I think what they didn't tell you, mate, is that the Stormers have struggled away from home in the URC of late, and that green jersey is exactly the same Pantone color as the 4G pitches in Europe. And what you're going to find is the ref's not going to be able to send someone off, mate, because he can't see him. That jersey just camouflages them completely.
Exactly. And maybe if the ref puts on those shades for the first time, those dark glasses, we won't have that blinkered view that we normally get when South African teams play.
There you go, mate.
If you look at the Bok arrival, there's been a lot of talk in New Zealand, Zels.
Yep.
Let's go back again to that All Black side, because, again, on socials, and we do follow the socials, we follow your comments, guys, so please keep it coming, no matter where you are. What we do want to know in this week's show and building up to the next 2 weeks, if you are a South African in New Zealand, or you're a Kiwi living in New Zealand that loves the Boks, I want to know where you are in New Zealand. Drop us a comment on the YouTube channel, on our socials, and tell us where you're going to be screaming Boks by 10 from, because I think it will be Boks by 10 in Eden Park. And once we see the team lineups next week, I'll be more convinced. That All Black setup, where would you improve it?
Wow.
And why?
Sure. I mean, it's a tricky one to answer. I think that we were hoping that this season, and when I say we're hoping, from a rugby fan perspective, you're hoping that the All Blacks are going to put it together at halfback, settle on the decision makers at 10, and find some sort of continuity at 9 and 10. Will Jordan is established at fullback and a great option there. And historically, that All Black backline has been among, if not the best, among the best in the world every single season. So, but they've actually gone backwards in that arena, in the sense that they've had injuries at 9. You're trying to establish who is their number 1 9, with Cam Roy-Gard out injured. Who is the guy who's going to start? It looks like it's probably going to be Finlay Christie. And you also still, because of that, I suppose, you still haven't got that real assuredness about how good is Bodie at 10. Is he operating the team to their sort of peak efficiency? I don't know. Where does Damien McKenzie fit into the picture? And you've also taken steps back at centre, where I think the two of us thought Billy Proctor would actually be quite a good prospect and kick on. He hasn't. Rico Aini has gone from being mediocre to probably bad in the change that they've made there. So it just feels like instead of adding answers, they've added questions. And you don't. In a way, it's that they're in a similar place to the Boks in that respect. Not for the same reasons, but in a similar place where the pack is slowly starting to find its groove and come together and create depth. Still a few questions in the back row, but the back line, you just seems like there's more holes than there were last year.
But if I look at their pack, and they got Fabian Holland in at lock, everyone's like, wow, this guy just looks, he has a presence. He's a big Dutchman in the real sense of the word. He's from the Netherlands, 16 years old. He went over to New Zealand, had a dream to play for the All Blacks, went to Christchurch Boys High, started in his opening test, played the 80 minutes. But he looked like he got roughed up in Buenos Aires. It's the first time he looked a bit unsure of himself. He wasn't quite as imposing, and that's more of what he's going to get from the Springboks, okay? Then, so you look at Scott Barrett. In this country, we've admired the Barrett brothers and the fact that 3 of them have played for New Zealand. But there's always been like, how good is Scott Barrett really? And is he an inspirational captain? Is he too similar to Rose out of that Christchurch Crusaders mold? And do they not need the charismatic Ardie Savea to lead the All Blacks? And he's the antithesis of Razor Robinson in terms of just culturally and where they come from and how they kind of see the game. So there's a question mark there with their lock pairing. And then obviously Ardie Savea is a great player. Wallace Satidi, we saw how he came through. He's just come back, so he'll be a lot better in that mock test. But Vai at 6 was, again, out of sorts. Have they got a pack good enough to basically, over 80 minutes, compete with us?
I mean, I would say no, but then I said emphatically no about the Wallabies doing that at Ellis Park, and look what happened. So as much as it's tricky to put your finger on where the All Blacks are right now, the Boks have created a similar environment for themselves. When you look at that Bok pack, talk Scott Barrett, for me, he's a guy who could be a solid blindside flanker who's kind of been thrust into the second row because of a lack of options there. The rest of that pack, also some good pieces in there. You wonder about Ardie Savea and Father Time, how much longer it's going to go for. Wallace Satiti looks like a fantastic prospect when he can stay healthy. And they've got good front row options. We love the Tongan hooker. Cody Taylor's a Centurion. Takiao, mate.
You see, you say it so well, and you always say the Tongan.
But
Takiao.
They've got pieces there that they can use, you know. It's just like, for me, that pack right now doesn't have the guaranteed go forward on tap to justify having a guy at 12 like Geordie Barrett, who is a unique talent in the sense of what he brings tactically to the All Blacks. So he's a guy who's 1 million foot tall with long levers and can get his arms out of the tackle and be an offloading guy. Very difficult to kind of shut him down because he's so tall. You can't tackle the ball. So you're going leg tackles, that frees him up and they play off that. But it's quite tricky to offload when you're going backwards, and that pack hasn't established a reputation yet for being immovable. So for me, what the All Blacks need, I've said it countless times now, is they need a hammer at 12. The guy can almost play loose head prop. For me, it's that Timothy Tavatavanawa'i, a monster guy, Lester Fainganu,
Love it.
you know, those guys, big physical backs that can take the team forward, take some of the heat off that pack, and maybe free them up to move around a bit. And I think in that environment, you might see a Tupou Vaa'i who's probably quite mobile for a guy his size involved in the game.
Okay, so if you've got to just give me 10 seconds of commentary, okay? The hooker to the 12 to the 13. And they score. And just give it to me. Who passes to who?
Finley Christie offloads the ball. Sione Takiao, he's got it. He's crossed the gain line. Who's on his shoulder? Lester Fainganu. He brushes off the tackler and offloads, and it's Timothy Tavatavanawa'i under the upright.
And it's reminiscent of Rapini Kaganibuka when he played for the Blues. I love it. They have the players.
Yeah.
They've got players. I just don't think Razor Robinson is selecting them.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's going to be interesting to see kind of what kind of squad they announce next week. We'll follow their media and follow our media there to actually understand what players. I think it's a huge, huge plus for us that there's no Cam Roigard and no Richie Mohanga. I think that will be the World Cup pairing that you're looking at in 2027, end of year to 2026, if they are fit. If they just get their combination settled, and I think that's why I felt Razor's been underwhelming. He's been conservative. There's been when I look at the side that came here, and again, to your point, we wrote the Aussies off, and well, they hammered us in Ellis Park, and they were a missed kick away from doing us again in Cape Town. 27-17, the All Blacks were up at Ellis Park. We fought back. We won that test 31-27, and then it was a slugfest, 18-12 down here.
Yep.
Again, Damien McKenzie missed 2 kicks. He kicks it over at a certain stage. They take the lead, and we're in trouble. So for all our hoo-ha and our bravado about look how much depth we've got and look how good our players are, they seem to be competitive when they come up against us. Is it a case of they lift or that we maybe not quite as good as we think we are?
Yeah, I maybe a combination of the two. I think this test match at Eden Park is going to stand out as an outlier from the rest of the test matches this year. I think there's much more than just rugby at stake in this match. And I think everybody is going to dig deep down to the very bottom of their bucket to find a way to win. And I think that's going to change the shape of this game. I think you're going to be able to feel the intensity of this match, even through the TV. I think these guys are going to give it everything. So as much as like when New Zealand plays Ireland, it's like watching two duelists, like fences. It's very like technical. It's rapid and it's exciting, I suppose, if that's what you're into. But when the Boks play the All Blacks, it's a heavyweight slugfest, no boxing gloves, there's barely a ring mate, and there is no ref. Like you just go for it. The last man standing is the winner, and I think we're going to see that in this next match. Both of these teams are hurting and eager to lay down a marker for this season.
And you say this match next Saturday, 6th of September, it's an early morning game. It's going to be a cracker of a morning. In New Zealand, it's evening there, but in South Africa, we got Danie Gerber, who's on tour there. The iconic Danie Gerber was there last in 1981 when the Boks played. That incredibly disruptive, controversial tour. He's over there with the Braai Army. They'll be sending in some visuals for us to see as Danie tours between Auckland and Wellington. This is about you pick the best 23 to get that result at Eden Park. This isn't about who wins the rugby championship. We're preparing for the World Cup in 2027. This will give us a measure of, do we still have 23 good enough to... This is the World Cup final next Saturday. People say, if we were playing the World Cup final next Saturday, who would you pick? This is who he has to pick. Would you like to think that, or you think, no?
No, he has to. I think this game is going to, especially after that loss at Ellis Park. I think Russie's having to answer questions he didn't expect to have to answer at this point in the season. And I think everybody's been talking about this game for at least a year now. This is the game of the season for them. a win there will underwrite losses that are unexpected elsewhere, including the Ellis Park one. So this is the most important one. I don't know why it made me think of it when you talked about picking the best 23 in the country. You know, I wonder whether Dwayne Vermeulen isn't still our best number 8. Like, you start thinking about the players that are unavailable at the moment, and if this was a World Cup final, you might just pick up the phone and say, hey, Dwayne.
Well, what's his name? Gavin Rich, when we were watching the Australian test at Newlands, and Dwayne's obviously carrying water, carrying instructions from the side of the field. And at one stage when Sose went down, Kwaka was starting at 8, Gav looked at me and said, why didn't he just put on a pair of boots right there? I'm sure we can get 30 minutes out of him today. He'll still be the best.
He'll still be the hardest man on the field. Yep.
But we've been saying to you, and that's courtesy of Auto and General, to join the conversation. This is brought to you by Auto and General, insurance with readiness for all life's tackles. And to join it now in terms of which team would you want to see? Which 23 would you want to see play at Eden Park next Saturday? Zels and I chose our 23. You'll see it on the screen if you are watching. We're not going to repeat it now. If you are listening, you got to go onto our WhatsApp channel, onto our socials, and you'll see the 23 we believe could be history makers, courtesy of Auto in General. So that little insert will be powered by them. Has anything changed in your thinking from earlier this week in that 23, or do you want to just get past the weekend?
Yeah, let's get past the weekend. Let's see which team Rassie picks on Monday and then changes on Thursday, and see where we left with that. I mean, I mentioned the injuries earlier. That really is a factor in the selection of the squad. There's a bunch of really talented players not available. Ulrich Lowe, Cam Hanekom among them. There is a bloke in Cape Town called Evan Roos who could slot in quite nicely at 8, but he's not in the squad at the moment. And then Jean-Luc Dupré has been waiting very patiently to get a start. I think it's been 7 years since he last started for the Boks. Missed out last week due to illness. He's a guy you're kind of rooting for, just to get a gap. I mean, if Jean-Luc Dupré could get a start for the Boks in this Eden Park test and win that match, I think he would be very, very happy.
Well, 2007, in the last ever match played at Newlands against the All Blacks, 25-24 to the All Blacks. They had done us 57-0 in Albany. They had sent over 7 of their players to have a good week in Cape Town. They'd gone to Buenos Aires, smashed the Pumas. They were disjointed. We were fired up. It was, I think, Tudi's last home game in charge. Jean-Luc Dupré was outstanding. He scored a late try. That was the one where we thought we had won it. Dudes got sent off 5 minutes ago, and Damien McKenzie scored a great try from broken play. And
how do you know this?
Because I was there with Ollie in the grandstand.
I was there too.
Thinking, no,
yeah.
It's going to happen. But it also showed you 57-0, and 4 weeks later, New Zealand hung on for 25-24 at one point. So a 56-point turnaround in a month. These things do happen in rugby when it comes to the Boks and the All Blacks. The greatest rivalry. It doesn't get bigger. We keep on saying it. Next year, guys. Next year. 3 test matches against the All Blacks in South Africa, 4 games against our URC teams, and 1 against an invitation team. And I do believe there's a 4th test that will be played somewhere in London. It's going to be massive, and it starts next week. But also what started, bud, and this is something for when you shop at Pick and Pay because of Mac, there's a call to action, bro. And it's if you download your Pick and Pay AS app now, and if you find one of the 24 limited edition Springbok figurines in there, you can get 50,000
pesos
in cash.
50 grand.
Look, the question is if you find 2, what do they give you? Imagine winning back to back.
Wow, mate, that's amazing.
Just ordering something.
Imagine going to Pick and Pay for the missus and coming back with 50K. That's not a bad deal.
But you can't go there and get it.
You got to do it on the app.
You got to do it on the app.
Okay.
And guess what? And this is hilarious. If you are watching again, you're not listening, you'll see a delivery be made on the day of the test match in Cape Town a week ago. The spicy plum was the one delivering for Pick and Pay. Stephen Kitsov had quite a day.
Wow.
He carried the World Cup onto the field. He was the flag bearer, and he did some heavy duty in the morning, charging around Cape Town on one of those. I gotta go, mate. I hope he has a license.
Mate, I hope they had industrial suspension on that motorbike.
But as you saw, there was this wonderful kind of reaction when he took off the helmet and kind of to the winner. Well, here's your kind of giveaway, your order in, and open it up, and there is a figurine. You actually have won the 50,000 rand. It's like, Aren't you, Stephen Kitzel?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was a cool initiative.
Amazing.
But download the app. We're going to be doing a lot of exciting things with Pick and Pay as well, where, again, you can just be a winner. The one thing we give in the show, we two guys talking rugby. I keep on saying that's the identity of the show. Born out when Zels said to me, we talk so much rugby, let's just put ourselves in front of a mic 18 months ago, 2 years ago. We've done 117 episodes, I think it is, and we've had a lot of fun. But we are two guys talking rugby, and that's what makes it unique.
Yeah.
We are the mom and dad at home. Mom and dad, pronouns included. We are the dad and the son, two best mates. We're the oaks walking out of any retail shop, on the field, at the braai. As I say, we talk a lot of KAK at times, but we talk a lot of insightful stuff at times. And we just have a jaw and we have fun, because in this country, the conversation when it comes to the oval ball is rugby. We are 4-time world champions. No one's won it more than we have. And the Springbok is the strongest sporting brand in South Africa. And we are the Rainbow Nation when it comes to the Springboks. We have the most charismatic leader in Siya Kolisi, probably the biggest influence on and off the field in the history of rugby. Great coaching staff, one of them being in Ireland at the moment, Jacques Nienaber. And the only thing, Zels, that I think we got to get right, we've got to slash those ticket prices. You know, I took a pounding early on when I said, you pay for, you'd pay for Beyonce, you'd pay for this one, you pay for that one. But that was a one-off. When you're playing 6 test matches at home, you don't pay for 6 concerts for Beyonce. And someone said to me, let me just give you an education. If I want to watch more than one test match, it's going to cost me $10,000 if I take my wife and I take my 2 kids. And that is absurd. And since we spoke last week, people are like, I've managed to get a ticket to watch France play South Africa, to watch Wales play South Africa, and it's costing me 1,000 rand. It's costing me 1,200 rand. It's not costing me 3.5 grand. And my plea to Mark Alexander and Reno Orwells is just have a relook. Pump the corporates. Let them pay top dollar. But give the average punter, the likes of you and me, and those around us, give us access to a game to watch the Springboks. Because otherwise you're going to alienate us in the long run. And when times do get difficult and cycles do turn, you may not see us at the ground, even if you ask us to pay $600 to get there.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I said earlier, Rusty's never coached double world champions. The current SA Rugby administration has never had to set ticket prices to see double world champions. I think there is a bit of a learning curve there. I sympathize with them because South African rugby, your favorite rugby club, whether it's the Stormers, whether it's the Bulls, the Lions, the Sharks, Griquas, they're all competing against a heavy exchange rate. And there are French clubs that are desperate for our players. There are Irish clubs that are desperate for our players. There are English clubs that are desperate for our players, and Japanese clubs that are desperate for our players. So we are fighting a battle against those guys. And the money to compete against that, part of it comes from the revenue that obviously SA Rugby generates and shares with the unions. And I think, there is that side of it. That's the reason you have to maximize your commercial value of your brands. And it does arm us to resist some of that foreign poaching invasion. The flip side is, and this is where I think maybe the guys at the top of SA Rugby didn't fully consider this, is that the narrative has an impact. And when the narrative becomes that SA Rugby is being greedy with ticket prices, that's quite hard to shake off. And there are people who have spent hard-earned money to buy tickets to the box after they lost 57-0. And that's because they believe in the brand. And when a narrative forms that kind of brings that into question about how solid that relationship is it a two-way relationship? That's not good for the long-term commercial value of the brand. So I think finding a balance between getting as much revenue as possible to keep the best players in South Africa competing for our teams in the URC and available to the Springboks is important, but you've got to balance that against also supporting your supporters.
So you've changed your tune since Monday.
I have softened a bit.
Did they not buy you lunch?
I had a oatmeal cracker this morning, mate. One of those crunchies.
Not down at the Cullinan end.
Exactly.
Look, I just hope there is kind of common sense applied to it and there is common ground found. We have the greatest support base. 56,300 came out in really cold, icy conditions. There was no guarantee it wouldn't rain, and they supported the box, and they needed that crowd support. to get past the Wallabies as much as they need a Andre Pollard to get past the Wallabies. So the Boks are in New Zealand. They'll be there for the next 2 weeks. It feels like World Cup fever. We're into what never happened in World Cup finals. We're playing a best of 3, but we'll take it after 2. And that there's not a third one. To play New Zealand back to back.
Mate, I think it was Jared Wright on Twitter. Great tweet, mate. He says, when the Springboks play the All Blacks at Eden Park, it'll be the first time in the history of New Zealand that they host 4-time World Cup winners.
That is incredible. Well done, Jared Wright. And he's the one who was the brains behind putting up day one World Cup champions, and that was in 2019.
What a genius.
A lot of people have followed that since, but he was the one who kept it going. Every day he'd go on social media and remind people just how many days it is since we've been World Cup champions. And I'll tell you now how many days it is since we were. If I can get online here. We're going to get to it now, Zels. Maybe you can just talk a bit while I'm looking, man.
Mate, I love your typing technique. It is 2,126 days that we've been world champions.
And you had that all the time.
I just had it in the back of my head, mate.
You just made me tap around. But talking about that, one of the interesting things, and we're going to be debating again on the blog a bit later, is Russie's hardest call. When to say thank you to history. I've been doing a lot of thinking about that. And when does Russie's call? When does Rassie call? Okay, so
mate, the comments on that whenever we do that show,
we're gonna talk about that one on Monday.
Nice.
But I'm gonna do a little piece on the site as well. Get some of your input. But the questions we ask: does he rip up the jersey at the end of 2025 for some players, or does he use 26 as the handover, not the last dance, or does he set non-negotiable kind of standards in terms of minutes, availability, versatility? Is he thinking 5-3-6-2-7-1-8-0? How does that fit in? And then does he have that succession in each channel? Now, I think he already does, from front row to the back 3. And then the biggest thing here is to communicate the why, which he hasn't necessarily been that kind or that gentle at with the players. And then what kind of timeline do we look at? And what does it mirror? And the big thing that kind of going back and looking at his 10 years, from 2018, this Oak's prepared to lose to win. 7 out of 14. We forget that in his first season. 7 out of 14. And that last match at Cardiff wasn't particularly impressive when Wales comfortably beat us. We had lost with a kind of beige team in DC in the last minute. I think it was 27-13 and a really poor performance. And boom, we came back in 2018. As I said, the rest is history. What kind of pushback do you expect when it comes to the culling process?
Well, I think there's every one of those double world champions are somebody's favorite player. I mean, and they wholeheartedly believe that guy can go to the 2027 World Cup and the 2031 World Cup. So you're going to have people, you're going to sort of touch people on their studio.
Touch me on my studio.
I touch you on your studio.
Touch me on my studio.
As I say, and I think we're going to have some pushback on that. I'm not sure whether you can really cookie cutter it and say, this is how you must do it. For me, it comes down to, do you have a player coming through who isn't part of that group, that double world champion group, who has shown you, convinced you that they are able to overtake that player in terms of the value to the team and what they bring on and off the field? Because if the answer is yes to that question, then the younger option is the logical, safer option, obviously. But if your answer is uncertain or no, then obviously you stick with the guy that you've got. So I think it's very much up to the youngsters to kind of play the older guys out of those positions. But to do that, they have to play. And you also have to give them opportunities to play in a system that is stable. You can't be experimenting with crazy plans and be throwing youngsters in at the same time and think they will overtake them, because I doubt it.
All right, well, we're going to again go to our socials, WhatsApp channels, Keo Zels, SA Rugby, and the SA Rugby Magazine Facebook page, which is the biggest social beast in world rugby. And the question is going to be cull or curate.
Oh, I like that.
And do you cull at the end of 25? Do you cull at the end of 26 after the All Black tour? And then you basically, your end of your tour is what leads into the World Cup? Or do you curate from the end of 25 right through. And when we look again, some have left and some have come. So the question is cull or curate? And I think it's a great question. So follow our WhatsApp channels, our social media channels, and those questions will be there. And as always, there'll be prizes attached to that. If you can tell us what's in Russie's head, you get to go to the World Cup with Russie. Women box, talking World Cups.
Yes.
66-6, the detail, as we said. The devil is always in the detail. Great win, Brazil's first World Cup. Big Australia, Canada, England, New Zealand. We know they're going to win big, but South Africa needed to win. They've now got 2 big games starting with Sunday. I think it's Italy.
Yep.
And then it's France. All ranked above them and teams that have beaten us quite convincingly in the past. Give me some insights there, bro.
Yeah, I don't really know what to say. I mean, I think that 66 win against Brazil, fantastic. It kind of shows that South African women's rugby is not at the bottom of the ladder. We've made progress in the years, and I think having Sway's the brain there has been a massive progression for where the team is at the moment. To have beaten Brazil like they did, very, very good. Now the real challenges start in terms of Italy and France. The top 2 teams from their pool obviously advance to the playoffs. So they have to stop one of those teams, you'd think, to be able to do that. And that is a big challenge for them. So it's about taking the confidence from that Brazil game, but then also still keeping your feet grounded that it was Brazil and you've got some serious intensity facing you in this next one. Hopefully the ladies can pull it through and beat Italy on Sunday. That'll put them in the driving seat in their pool. I think it's Group D. And then, the challenges just go up from there. You get to the playoffs. Australia and England are both in the same group in the Women's World Cup. So,
look, and I think the realism there, and as Swayze has said it all along, that if they can get to a playoff, if they can make top 8, they are ranked 12th in the world, and that's the reality of when they arrive there. They don't play like a team that's ranked 12th at the moment. We saw that when they played the Black Ferns 15, won that second unofficial test comfortably. Perspective again, the top 25 New Zealand players weren't here. They were New Zealand preparing to go to the World Cup. This was their kind of reserve depth. But a year ago, that reserve depth would have won by 30 points against the women's Springboks. Incredible improvements. But the key there is if they can win at least 2 games in their pool, get through to a last 8, I think it'll be a fantastic effort. And then realism kicks in that they become top 4 contenders in the 4 years that follow. But we're all back in the women box here. Khaleesi, he's the biggest cheerleader around them. Tune in on Sunday on SuperSport. Watch them. And hell, I mean, there is a confidence in the team. I do speak to Dave Wessels on a every second day basis, just with a WhatsApp. He says it's just the support they're getting from South Africa is incredible. I don't think these women have ever experienced that in the history of playing the game in this country. So that's good. What's also good is no one's really ever experienced what's happening in Wellington, Boland.
Exactly,
in what we still call the Curry Cup.
Yeah, how great has that been? That revival there has been awesome. Harvey's Fourie obviously central to that. And just great to see just the groundswell of interest and excitement around Boland again. And just that sort of play with the chip on their shoulder and absolutely overachieving the surprise packages, I suppose, of the Curry Cup. And an interesting competition in the sense that you've got the guys that don't play URC. For them, this is their World Cup of the season, right? So Pumas, Griquas, Boland, to some extent the Cheetahs, they're all full blast about winning this competition. And then you've got the big unions, the Lions, Western Province, the Bulls and Sharks. For them, it's more about developing depth and talent for the URC campaign, which is long and arduous. So there's quite a dichotomy in how this tournament plays out. And there's obviously a lot of expectation. Every time a team like Province takes the field, as far as people are concerned, they must win, when they play the Pumas. But there's some interesting layers to this competition, so it's well worth watching.
Yeah, and great to see Boland doing so well in the Western Cape. And it sets up for quite a fascinating final league run against Western Province, who are winless in the tournament at the moment. So that will be a derby that hasn't happened for a long, long time. I think it's played out in Wellington as well. That will be a good one to go to because it will be chock-a-block there. 8,000 to 10,000 people just packed into that stadium. Makes for quite a riveting atmosphere. Looking at the school setup, it really closes down this weekend. Sax play their big classic game against Wynberg. Rondebosch up against Bishops. Those are the Southern Suburbs derbies. I think for the likes of Bishops and Sax, a great way to end the season. I think they'll be glad the season is over and there's no more trips to Paul.
Yeah, you found a way.
I found a way to include that. All the thinking is with our women box. I want you all to have a really, really cool and comfortable weekend. Zels, I want you to tour the peninsula again with Mac and make sure she wins all those dance competitions. She's a great solo dancer. We got to take a breath this weekend, Zels. Why do we have to take a breath?
Because we've got the biggest game of the season coming up, mate.
From Monday morning onwards, it's full on for 2 weeks. It is back-to-back World Cup finals. The two teams who have won 7 World Cup titles between them. It's Eden Park, it's Wellington, it's Box, it's the All Blacks. It's Box by 10. Buy our t-shirts, support us, and we love you. Goodbye.